Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories.
This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user Throwaway Wife Affair. Wives, 29 female, Frenemy, 30 female, sent me an email outlining my wife's attempt to reconcile with her ex, 35 male, and sleeping with him, as we were getting more serious. I'm at work and don't know how to respond to any of this. My wife, 29 female, and I, 28 male, have been together for 4 years and married less than a year. Let me also preface this by saying I have a cold and I'm in desperate need of sleep. My wife, Katie, and I started dating when I was in grad school. We were in the same social circle. She was in a relationship with a guy we'll call Mike, and it was clear it wasn't going to work long term. Mike was a free spirit and had a lot of personal issues, so none of us were surprised when they broke up. He decided to go on a retreat road trip with his ex-girlfriend for 6 months and disappeared. She got over the relationship and about a year later we started dating. It was an odd coupling, we're very different. She's a lot more artistic and free than I am. We're on different levels in the looks department and many of the things that make us who we are seemingly opposites. I'm more buttoned up and traditional and she's not. A couple of months in, we hit a rough patch, but we worked through it. From then on, things were great. We moved in, I proposed, we got married, and that brings us to today where we're trying for a kid. My wife's frenemy, Danielle, has never really been supportive of our relationship and they've been friends since middle school, but have had several falling outs over the years. Recently, my wife couldn't and didn't attend an event hosted by Danielle, which prompted this recent outburst and along with it the end of their friendship. Danielle sent me an email saying that when Katie and I got together, she was unsure of which person to choose. So when Mike returned, she went to him to talk about them. They met a few times during the first 2 weeks he was back and apparently had sex once or twice. According to Danielle, Katie ended it and never told me anything about it. She confided in Danielle about it years ago and I guess thought the matter was closed. I got the email this morning at 10 and was surprised Danielle emailed me and read it. Probably 30 minutes later, I get texts from my wife asking if I got an email from Danielle, and did I read it? When I answered in the affirmative, she sent me a deluge of long texts explaining that it did happen, they had sex once and had coffee 3 times, and that she hasn't spoken to him since. I'm not sure what to respond. I have a cold and have been trying to get work done so I can rest when I get home. I don't even know how to deal with this. Part of me wants to go home, get into bed and sleep, pretending I never found out. Another part of me is furious that she hid this from me. I had a feeling she had seen her ex, but she then came to me a week or so later and wanted me to confirm we were exclusive and I wasn't seeing anyone else. Part of me is terribly mad at Danielle for dragging this crap up years later. I don't know what to do here. Is this that bad of a transgression? It feels like it was so far in the past that I don't know how to respond to my wife or Danielle. Well, Opie, the first thing I would say is you don't need to reply to Danielle with anything. This is something that's between you and your wife. Now, is this a transgression or a bad one? Yeah, in my opinion it is. She cheated on you with her ex. She hid it from you. She wanted to bury it in the past and forget about it. She never came clean. And the only reason she is now giving any explanations is because Danielle exposed her. Now, I'm not saying that so you just go straight to the divorce attorney and get it over with. No, I'm saying this because those are the facts. So what I would do if I were in your shoes is I would sit down with my wife and talk about it. If this is truly bringing you pain that you don't think you can get over, then you make a decision. If this is something that you think you can work together on, then maybe couples counseling could help out, get you to where you need to be. The one thing I wouldn't do is try to sweep this under the rug and pressure it down because that can only make it blow up later. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. La Mama Loca says, you don't need to decide right now. You don't even need to decide tomorrow or this week. Sleep, get over your cold, think about it, Find someone to talk to about it, maybe a counselor. Figure out how you feel. Then start to talk it out with your wife. Put trying for a kid on hold no matter what. iZim52 says, go home, sleep. Nothing good ever comes from being exhausted. Talk about it. Create clear boundaries, but don't be a doormat. And do not just pretend it never happened. But also, don't go into this with the intent for it to be the end all of your relationship. You can work through this and be better because of it, but you both have to want that. Make it clear that you know this was in the past, but that it leaves no room for mistakes of this nature in the future. Angie of Repose says, in my opinion, at first, she didn't know whether to stick with familiar guy or new guy. She couldn't make a decision and ended up briefly seeing two guys at the same time. In the end, she chose you, and you're happily married now. Danielle dropped that bomb just to hurt your wife, and you were collateral damage. Rix23 says, when did it happen? When you were first dating or when you were already deep into your relationship? I think that makes a difference. If you had no commitment and were just casually dating at the time, I can see why it would hurt you, but it seems like something you could work through. If you were farther into the relationship and had the expectation of exclusivity, this is more serious. How you handle it is up to you, but this would indicate a serious breach of trust. And who is to say that your wife wouldn't break that trust again if she hasn't already? One thing is for sure though, both you and your wife need to cut Danielle out of your life. Even if she told you an uncomfortable truth, she didn't do it to protect you. She did it to hurt your wife. She sounds horrible. JK10021 says, it was very early in your relationship. I don't know if you were officially exclusive at that point or not, but if not, I think you're a fool for letting this bother you too much. Your wife has a past. I'm guessing you do too. She chose you. You won. The timing wasn't ideal, but timing isn't always ideal. You'd rather her figure out she wanted you instead of Mike in the early weeks of your relationship than her doing that now. If you're happy with your marriage, don't let Danielle ruin it by her being a catty bitch. And oh hell no, Joe says, you know, every couple doesn't subscribe to this notarized exclusivity contract crap that's constantly dragged out around here. If this happened months into their relationship, then this is a massive issue. Marriage is not some clean slate. People are still responsible for what they did while dating. If there was any assumption that Mike was in this person's past and she still slept with him, then OP should have a problem with it. Okay, well, the community is kind of in between, yeah, this is an issue and it's not an issue, and you should definitely take your time to talk about this. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Sorry for the delay, it's been crazy. So, briefly, I didn't update because I was feeling really crappy. I took nighttime cold medicine really early and passed out, and wound up taking Friday off. I binged the show and slept and recuperated. I didn't respond to Danielle, and my wife sort of left me alone to recover as I felt like crap. She took care of me, but also didn't bring up the topic until I wasn't on my back. Once I started feeling better and could breathe through my nose again, I tried to calmly approach this. On the table was a pregnancy test we've been trying for a while with a little bow on it. I had previously noticed that she was late, but my wife and I had a few very late periods and no pregnancy, so I wasn't sure what's what. I'm pretty sure I mentioned trying for a kid in my original post, so that adds a layer of complexity to all this. To answer some questions. 1. In general, things were great between my wife and I and have been for years. The real problem we had was in those first few months, which involved a number of issues about being in a new relationship. We rarely fought, things were very happy, we had a great sex life, we openly talked about everything. I would never imagine that I'd be sent something like this. 2. Exclusive? We had never talked about it, it was never stated one way or the other. I assumed we were, but I guess not. 3. Her ex. He's a writer, let me rephrase, a quote-unquote writer who has never written. Mike and I have met a few times. a few times by accident and once because he was invited to a party we went to. He's not really that interesting or threatening, and my wife seems totally nonplussed with him. The last time we saw him was in a bookstore, and she didn't at all seem interested. She later said she was glad it didn't work out and was happy without him in her life. And for Danielle. Danielle and Katie have been friends for 2 decades, but the last couple of years things became contentious. Katie and I got together and Danielle's marriage fizzled out. Danielle can be a nice person, but is difficult, and I think she's jealous that our relationship was, until that point, very successful. She and I didn't really spend that much time together, and she retreated from my wife's life when she found out we were trying for a kid. In the wake of all of this, their friendship is ruined, that's for sure. So back to the update. I was feeling crummy and watched back-to-back episodes of TV and did nothing all day Friday. I literally did nothing beyond getting up to take some medicine or eat and pee. That's it. I didn't broach the subject or even think about it. When my wife got home, I felt better and could think a bit more cogently. She does errands after work, which is when she dropped the test on the table and scrammed. A few people commented that we should wait to have kids. Well, that's not going to happen. She got back and we talked. The story is, and I have no reason to doubt her, she and Mike were dating. She was studying and working and he was writing. He asked to go on a writing retreat with his ex-girlfriend to a cabin somewhere that they could focus on their work. She said no, that it wasn't a good idea for him to be alone with his ex, and he went anyway. That translated into his leaving for some prolonged road trip with his ex. They kept in contact, but she and I started dating. We had been together 3 or 4 weeks when he returned, and they didn't see each other at first. My wife, like I said, is different from me. I'm a lot more traditional, a lot more formal, and I'm very, very career-oriented. When we hit a rough patch, there was more than an insubstantial chance I was going to have to move away and she was going to have to decide to move with me after 2.5 or 3 months of seeing each other, or break up and move on. I had applied for a program and it looked like a local program was going to reject me, but surprisingly, a better, far more well-known university was going to accept me. When things went down between them, I had been formally rejected and she had to make a decision. I was too focused on admission to even notice or care. They met up at a party and nothing happened. They just talked and had drinks. The second time they met, that's when the deed happened. She apparently regretted it immediately, and the final time was to tell him goodbye and that she was moving. They had a few drinks, fooled around, and then she left. She said she knew it was a mistake. She knew they had no future and nothing in common anymore. Right around the time that they fooled around, she and I had a mega fight about moving. It was a lot for someone to deal with, I know. But in the end, she said she wanted to go, but was scared I was going to get to a new city in my new program and dump her for a classmate, stranding her. I told her no, and offered her whatever assurances I could. It worked, and we did live happily ever after. I would never have assumed she had cheated. I mean, putting it down, we were in a weird spot, and I fully understand why it was a rough time, but the cheating was really not something I could abide by. The whole exclusive thing came from us moving. I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time. I figured then that she just wanted assurances that moving with me wasn't a huge mistake. Not that she had recently bonked her ex who has frequent and unprotected sex with many randoms, but again, it also makes sense. From then till about a month after we moved, we didn't have sex, not once. I asked if she had been tested and she just casually remarked, of course. I was still feeling crappy and didn't know what to do, so I just kind of went back to bed. In reality, for years, she's never strayed or been anything but open. She has access to my phone and I can access hers. She doesn't go out without unexplained absences and is more of a homebody. She isn't flirtatious with people or cause drama, so I just sort of stopped caring. I took the weekend to get over this cold and we did some baby shopping online and planned for a follow-up with her doctor. After that, we just didn't talk about it again. I did bring up the subject of Danielle and pretty directly told her I was done with her. She asked if she thought it would be wise to try and talk to her, and I said no. We wrote her an email using my account and sent her a response basically telling her that we were done with her and not to bother us again. She responded by saying it was a joke and asked that we understand that she was being funny. I found the block function on Gmail and added her. My wife noticed that she removed her from Facebook and Instagram, and I guess that's that. Not really a thrilling or interesting update, and a few people will be angry that I didn't take a stronger tone or reaction, but I did what I felt was best under the circumstances. Hopefully this is behind us and I can just move on and enjoy bringing a new life into the world. Well, Opie, I think it was a very mature conversation that you had with your wife. You put everything on the table, you thought about it, and it doesn't bother you, so you're moving on. And now you're going to focus on your marriage and your future child. So here's wishing you the best, Opie. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to another post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit entitled People, and it's by user Teeny Tiny Bees. It's okay, lady. Just buy single yogurts out of the pack of 4. I don't know why this bothered me so much, but I was buying some groceries at Target this morning, and while I was looking for the big tub of the kind of yogurt I always buy, I couldn't help but notice a woman reaching into the 4-packs and removing one here and one there. Not my place to say anything, so I didn't. I just watched her walk away with 2 single containers, leaving 3 behind and now slightly torn cardboard packages. Fast forward a few minutes and I end up in line behind her. The poor cashier is trying to figure out how to charge her for single containers because there's no barcode on them. I said, helpfully, maybe those are only supposed to be sold in complete packs. The cashier figured out some way to make up a charge for the 2 cups. And the lady looked at me and said, well, I don't know if I like these or not, so why should I buy 4? If I like them, I'll come by and buy the other 3. I'm guessing if she comes back, those now 3-packs will have been removed by a frustrated employee when they're stocking that shelf, and see, she ransacked packages. The stupid part is, you can buy single ones in all our local grocery stores, just not our Target. Opie's update. Since so many people agreed with me that this lady was wrong, I called the store a while ago. I told the manager I didn't want to get the cashier in hot water and that she was trying very hard to provide good customer service. Then I explained what happened and he laughed and said, "Oh no, that's not good." I described her and he said she was the only lane open all morning, so he would gently explain to her that if there was no barcode, the item wasn't to be sold individually. So he was glad to find out and sounded more amused than angry, so I don't think he's going to chew her out. Just explain how to handle such things in the future. I really didn't want to get her in trouble, I just wanted her to be trained a little better. Well, Opie, my guess is that next time the one yogurt lady wants to come in to pick out a single product from bulk, she'll be told no and we'll have to just go to the local supermarket. Thanks for sharing, Opie. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Sliding Doors. This is private property, sir. I am not sure if it is petty revenge or malicious compliance, but I think this story can fit here. Some years ago, I used to live on top of a pharmacy. Next to the pharmacy, there were 4 parking places and a gate, giving access to our private court where I had my garage. In the area, there were 3 other parking areas with at least 80 parking spaces. Nevertheless, coming back from work, I always found 1 car parked in front of my gate, as this was closer to the pharmacy. The gate during the day was always open, as the pharmacy had their deposit in there and, to not open and close every time, they used to block the photo cell with a wood. One day, I arrived at the gate that was luckily free, but the guy, around 75 male, in front of me turned into the gate to park. I start klaxoning to tell him to move. He left the car there and said, "This space belongs to the pharmacy. I am going to the pharmacy and I found the parking place before you, so I'm leaving it in. If you don't want people to park inside, you need to close the gate." Useless to say that I explained he was wrong, but he just left. But I noticed one thing. The car was not obstructing the photocell. So, this is what I did. I accidentally touched the wood to let the gate close with the car inside. I parked my car in one of the parking places around my flat. I went home by feet to take a shower. After 10 minutes, I listened to the intercom going mad crazy. I dressed up and in 5 minutes I went downstairs. The guy was furious. "I called the police and you're going to have problems now. You stole my car." This guy went ballistic, complaining with everyone who was going out from the pharmacy. And when he saw me, he started insulting me like there was no tomorrow. I told him to calm down because he was wrong and that I was in the shower. And the guy said, "No, I don't care. Now you stay here and wait for the police." The police came and the guy was saying, "He stole my car. Look, I have the keys and the guy closed the gate to steal it." And here the real show started. The police asked me what happened. I told him that yes, I complained about him parking in my private property, but then I went to park somewhere around and I went home. The guy was shouting at me, saying I was lying. About the wood, I said, I didn't know, it must have fallen by itself. But even if I removed it, it was my right to have my gate closed, as the guy told me 15 minutes ago. And the guy was shouting at me, saying I was lying. The police understood what happened and told him to shut up and not talk anymore. "This is private property, sir." The guy was purple, couldn't stay still, extra furious. The police asked me to open the gate. I told him I needed to pick up the remote from the car, and I asked them to explain to the guy what he was doing wrong in my absence, because I'm a little bit scared by him. I took my time to get to the car to allow the police schooling the guy, and once back, the guy was looking down, like he got beaten with a stick. I opened the gate, the police forced the guy to apologize to me and told him to leave. No fines, no charges, even from the police who told them, "You could be charged with false alarm, but we don't do this as long as you don't park here anymore." I didn't see this guy anymore, and for a while, no one parked in front of the gate. Well, OP, that was a lesson learned. Well done. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.